Has anyone from a bank called you lately? My father's question cut through the noise around Grandpa Arthur's dinner table. I looked up from my plate. 12 relatives were talking over one another, glasses clinking, my aunt laughing too loudly near the kitchen. But Marcus Williams wasn't smiling. He was staring directly at me. No, I said. Why? My brother Derek gave a quick laugh. Dad's just asking. Then why does he keep asking? Marcus leaned back in his chair. Because you panic over everything, Thelma. If somebody from a bank or some government office calls, you call me first. Understand? A few relatives went quiet. Heat climbed into my face. I was 31 years old, but my father could still reduce me to the nervous daughter everyone thought needed managing. I can handle a phone call. Marcus smirked. That's not what history says. Then something pressed against my knee, beneath the table. I glanced down. Grandpa Arthur's hand was shaking. Between his fingers was a thick brown envelope. Without looking at me, he whispered, "Put it in your purse." My stomach tightened. Grandpa, what? His hand suddenly closed around my wrist. Don't open this here. Across the table, Derek stopped talking. His eyes dropped toward my lap. Grandpa released me instantly, and I slid the envelope into my purse. Marcus noticed. Dad, he said sharply, what did you just give her? Grandpa lifted his water glass with an unsteady hand. An old photograph. Marcus smiled, but Derek didn't. His eyes stayed on my purse for another second before he looked away. Dessert was barely on the table when Grandpa found me near the hallway. Go home, he whispered. I stared at him. What? Pack one bag. Grandpa. Don't tell your father where you're going. His face looked different now, not confused, terrified. I lowered my voice. What is happening? He leaned close enough that I could feel his breath against my ear. They're watching you. My chest tightened. Who? He glanced toward the dining room. Don't use the company laptop. Don't answer questions from Marcus or Derek. And whatever they put in front of you tomorrow, do not sign it. Tomorrow. Grandpa gripped my arm. You have 24 hours. I left 10 minutes later. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching me walk to my car. He didn't wave. Halfway home, my phone lit up. A text from Derek. Need you at the office tomorrow morning. Dad has some documents you need to sign. Urgent. My eyes dropped toward the brown envelope sitting on the passenger seat. What could possibly be inside it that had frightened my grandfather enough to tell me to disappear? I locked my apartment door, turned the deadbolt, then checked it twice. Grandpa's envelope sat on my kitchen counter. For several seconds, I just stared at it. Then I tore it open. A stack of photocopied documents slid out, followed by a small flash drive, a prepaid phone, and a folded note in Grandpa's handwriting. I picked up the first document. My name was printed across the top. Borrower Authorized Officer, Thelma WLLAMS. I stopped breathing. Beneath it was my signature. No. I flipped to the next page. A business loan. $480,000. Approved using credentials connected to me. The next document showed transfers between Williams' property management accounts. Again, my name appeared under authorization. Someone had stolen my identity. That was my first thought. Then I saw the signature more closely. I recognized it. Years earlier, when I was still helping Dad with payroll for free, I had created a digital signature for routine company paperwork. This was that exact signature. My regular phone rang. Dear Kay. I almost ignored it, but Grandpa's warning echoed in my head. They're watching you. I answered. Thelma. What? A pause. Then Derek asked, what did Grandpa give you tonight? My fingers tightened around the phone. A picture. Silence. What picture? An old family one. Why? Nothing. His voice changed immediately. Just remember you need to be at the office at 9. Dad has some routine compliance paperwork for you. I'm not signing anything until I read it. Another pause. Then Derek gave a humorless laugh. Don't make Dad clean up another one of your messes. He hung up. For once, I didn't call my father afterward to ask what Derek meant. Instead, I switched on Grandpa's prepaid phone. There was only one saved contact. E.V. Elwinshaw, attorney. Underneath the phone was Grandpa's handwritten note with an address. I reached for the call button. Then, click, the handle of my apartment door moved. Once, twice. I froze. A dark shadow appeared beneath the door. Someone was standing outside. I covered my mouth and waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then the shadow disappeared. No knock. No voice. Nothing. That frightened me more. I shoved the documents and flash drive back into the envelope, grabbed clothes, my wallet and charger, and packed one bag exactly as Grandpa had ordered. I didn't use the company laptop. I didn't call Marcus. I didn't call Derek. I took the prepaid phone and slipped out through the rear garage. Normally, fear would have sent me straight to my parents. That night, for the first time in my life, it sent me somewhere else. I entered the address Grandpa had written into my car's navigation system and drove. The address led me to a glass office building 20 minutes away. By the time I reached the 4th floor, I had convinced myself Grandpa had uncovered some stranger using my identity. Then Evelyn Shaw looked at the envelope and said, "Arthur told me you might come." She was already expecting me. I sat across from her and pushed the forged loan documents over the desk. "What is happening?" Evelyn studied me. "Your grandfather has been investigating financial irregularities inside Williams Property Management. My father's company. Arthur's instructions were very specific. Before I tell you anything else, I need to establish whether you authorize these." She placed the $480,000 loan document in front of me. "I didn't. These transfers. No. This signature. It looks like mine, but I never put it there." Evelyn slid a sworn statement toward me. This time, I read every line before signing. By 9:30, I had 6 missed calls from Dad. By 10, the family group chat exploded. Marcus, Thelma took confidential company records from Grandpa last night. She isn't thinking clearly. Then Derek posted, "If she contacts anyone, please tell Dad immediately. Grandpa isn't well and she's taking advantage of him." My aunt called seconds later. "Thelma, return whatever Arthur gave you. You don't even know what he gave me. Your father says they're company documents." Another cousin messaged that manipulating an elderly man was disgusting. My thumb hovered over Dad's number. For years, this was how it worked. Enough people told me I was overreacting, and eventually I surrendered. "Before you call him," Evelyn said, "look at this." She placed 2 records side by side. Same transfer. Same amount. Same date. But the authorization sources were different. I looked at her. "What does that mean?" "It means these aren't random fraudulent documents." She tapped the papers bearing my name. "They were constructed around your identity." My stomach dropped. "Someone is building a paper trail that points directly at you." Before I could answer, Evelyn's desk phone rang. Her receptionist spoke quickly. Evelyn stood and walked toward the window overlooking the lobby. Then she looked at me. "Your father and brother are downstairs." Marcus was already demanding to see me. In front of employees and visitors, he claimed I possessed stolen corporate property and insisted his confused daughter needed to come home. Evelyn activated the lobby security phone. I stepped beside her. "I'm not coming downstairs." Dad went silent. The concerned father voice vanished. "Thelma," he said slowly. You have no idea what you've just done to yourself. Evelyn ended the security call before my father could say another word. Now we move, she said. I stared through the office glass toward the lobby below, because he threatened me. Because Marcus coming here means he knows you've gone outside the family. I pulled Grandpa's flash drive from the envelope. Then find out why he cares so much about this. Evelyn connected it to an isolated computer. Folders appeared across the screen, accounting exports, timestamps, login records, security backups. My grandfather hadn't simply copied a few suspicious documents. He had preserved records. Evelyn opened one file after another. Suddenly, dinner replayed differently in my head. Dad asking whether banks or government offices had contacted me. Derek insisting I appear at 9. The routine compliance paperwork. Dad ordering me to call him first if anyone asked questions. And documents carrying an old signature I hadn't used in years. There's already an outside financial review underway, Evelyn said. The company has a formal document submission due tomorrow morning. I looked at the clock. Grandpa's warning finally made sense. 24 hours. Evelyn nodded. Someone wants their version of these transactions officially documented before investigators compare the records. Who? I won't accuse anyone until Arthur's original archive arrives. I grabbed the prepaid phone and called Grandpa. No answer. Again. Nothing. Then Marcus posted in the family chat. Dad is resting. Nobody needs to disturb him. I stood immediately. I'm going back there. No, Evelyn stepped between me and the door. Arthur anticipated this. The next morning, at 8:40, a bonded records courier entered Evelyn's office carrying a sealed archive Grandpa had deposited weeks earlier. Inside were original server access reports and notarized instructions explaining why he'd preserved them. Evelyn opened the access logs. My forged authorizations appeared beside transaction after transaction. Next to them were administrator records. 2 names repeated across the screen. I knew both instantly. My mouth went dry. Before Evelyn could speak, the conference room door flew open. The receptionist rushed inside. The investigators are here. She swallowed. And your father came with them. I looked at Grandpa's brown envelope. Less than 24 hours earlier, I had been sitting quietly beside him at dinner, while my family treated me like someone incapable of handling her own life. Now I picked up the envelope and walked toward the conference room before the deadline expired. My father was already seated when I entered the conference room. Derek sat beside him. 2 investigators occupied the opposite side of the table, and Evelyn pulled out the chair beside mine. Marcus looked at the brown envelope in my hand. His face changed. What has she told you? He demanded. Evelyn answered calmly. Enough to compare your submitted records against the originals. That was when the whole scheme finally came apart. Williams Property Management had accumulated serious financial problems through unauthorized borrowing and transfers. Because I had once helped with bookkeeping, my old information remained inside company systems. Dad and Derek had used it. My archived digital signature had been copied onto loan documents. Old credentials connected to me created a trail, making it appear that I had authorized transactions, including the $480,000 loan. And the routine compliance paperwork, waiting for me at 9. Fresh signatures. If I had obeyed them like I always did, those signatures could have been used to strengthen the story they were preparing to submit. One investigator placed the original server logs on the table. Marcus's administrator account appeared repeatedly. So did Derek. Mine didn't match the access activity surrounding the transactions carrying my name. Dad pointed at Derek. He handled the financial systems. Derek snapped around. You told me what needed to be moved. Watch yourself. No, you watch yourself. This was your plan. I stared at them. The two men who had spent years telling me I couldn't handle pressure were unraveling under the first real pressure placed on them. The door opened. Grandpa Arthur entered with Evelyn's assistant. Dad stood. You chose her over your own son. Grandpa stopped across from him. No, you chose yourself over your daughter. Nobody spoke. I removed the forged loan document from the envelope and placed it beside the sworn statement I had signed in Evelyn's office. 2 versions of my signature. One stolen. One mine. I looked directly at my father. How long were you planning to let me take the blame? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. That silence answered me. Grandpa explained how he'd noticed transactions attributed to me months earlier. He knew I hadn't handled company finances in years. Instead of confronting Marcus and Derek, he hired Evelyn and a forensic accountant. They preserved accounting exports, original server logs, access records, and earlier document versions outside company control before anyone could alter them. That was why his hands had been shaking at dinner. Their watching hadn't meant someone was waiting to abduct me. Dad and Derek were watching for signs that I had been contacted, questioned, or had discovered what they were doing. And those 24 hours were the remaining window before their prepared records were scheduled for submission. The investigators preserved the company records, and disputed transactions were frozen while the case proceeded. Against Grandpa's originals, the story built around me collapsed. Marcus and Derek lost management authority and faced charges connected to fraud, forgery, and misuse of my identity. Then the family messages changed. The same relatives who had called me unstable started deleting accusations. My aunt apologized. My cousin claimed he'd been misinformed. I kept screenshots. Not for revenge. Because I was finished allowing other people to rewrite what happened to me. Grandpa restructured control of the company so Marcus and Derek couldn't simply walk back in. He offered me a larger role. I declined. I opened separate accounts, replaced compromised credentials, established identity security protections, hired my own attorney, and permanently separated my finances from the family business. For the first time, nobody else held the keys to my life. Months later, Grandpa came to my apartment for dinner. After he left, I opened a locked drawer. The brown envelope was still there. I kept it not because I wanted to remember being afraid. I kept it because that was the night I stopped confusing obedience with trust. Grandpa's envelope gave me 24 hours to escape their trap, but opening it gave me something permanent. Proof that the people demanding my trust were the very people I needed protection from.